Tonight's story is not fiction. It happened inside a forgotten school, abandoned for decades, yet it is far from silent. I stood before it, an old Victorian structure of peeling brick and cracked stone. Ivy crept up its sides, gnarled fingers seeking purchase on crumbling windowsills. It had once been grand, but now it loomed over me like a skeletal giant, its vacant eye sockets staring out blindly. I ran my hand over the cold stone, tracing the faded outline of a carved coat of arms. The wind sighed through broken window frames, sounding like hushed voices that spoke of secrets best left undisturbed. The school had been abandoned when I was just a child, shuttered due to budget cuts and a dwindling population in our once vibrant mining town. Since then, rumors had circulated, stories told around flickering campfires by folks with wild eyes who swore they heard mournful cries echoing from within the old building's belly. They spoke of books that flew off shelves, desks overturned, and phantom footsteps that patrolled the upper floors after dark. For decades, I dismissed these tales as superstitious nonsense. But tonight, curiosity got the better of me, and under the cloak of a moonless sky, I ventured forth to explore. The rusted iron gates guarding the entrance groaned open at my touch. I stepped inside and the ground crunched under my boots, a carpet of fallen leaves muffling my steps. The air grew colder, heavier as I made my way through the overgrown weeds that choked the paths. The front doors loomed ahead, framed by a tangle of clamming roses and shrouded in creeping vines. I pushed them open, bracing myself for the musty scent of disuse and decay. But what hit me first was the stench of mildew and something else. Something vaguely metallic, like old blood. The air hung thick and heavy. I pulled out my flashlight and the beam cut through the gloom, revealing a cavernous space choked with debris. Here and there, twisted metal chairs lay abandoned as if flung aside in haste. Chalk dust motes danced in the weak light, disturbed by a sudden draft that rustled through broken windows. My beam snagged on something in the shadows, a hunched shape that seemed to writhe slightly. I stepped closer, my heart pounding. Was it a stray dog or something less welcome? I shone the light directly on it. It was a human figure curled in the corner, draped in a tattered blanket. I called out cautiously, "Hello!" Only silence answered me. As I cautiously approached, I saw that it was only a scarecrow of sorts, fashioned from a dirty blanket and a mannequin torso. Still, I couldn't shake the feeling of being watched. I whirled around, my flashlight darting about, but saw nothing in the gloom. Venturing deeper into the school's belly, I came across an office whose door hung precariously from one hinge. On the wall beside it, a chipped porcelain plaque proclaimed, "Welcome to Walton High School, where knowledge is power." Inside the office, papers lay strewn across a battered desk, ink and dust mingling on aged ledgers. A calendar hung askew, its days and months long since faded. I turned on the single bare bulb dangling from the ceiling. The glass was coated with grime, casting grotesque shadows that danced around the room. On the desk, I found a stack of student files, their cardboard covers flaking with age. One bore the name E. Blackwood, dated 1962. As I lifted it, a photograph slid out, showing a young girl with bright eyes gazing back at me. Next to her, a man in a blazer and a woman in a crisp blouse smiled down, their arms around the child. Blackwood's family, I thought, realizing with a start that the girl's eyes were identical to mine. I quickly snapped the file shut, flushing with sudden discomfort. What was I doing here? This was just an abandoned school. There was nothing to fear. I fled the office, my footsteps echoing through the vast emptiness of the building. Suddenly I heard a noise behind me, a scraping sound like fingernails on slate. I whirled around, my flashlight sweeping frantically, but saw nothing. Had I imagined it? The noise started again, slow and deliberate, as if someone or something were dragging themselves closer. Fear pricked at me, cold and sharp. I turned and ran, stumbling over loose floorboards and leaping over piles of debris. The sound pursued me relentlessly. I burst through double doors at the end of the hallway, desperate to escape the relentless scratching. Outside, I gasped for breath, my chest heaving. But when I turned back, the doors had vanished, replaced by solid brick. I was trapped inside. Panic clawed at my throat. I pounded on the wall, my muffled screams swallowed by the darkness. Then I noticed a window at the far end of the hall, a glimmer of moonlight beckoning like a lifeline. With renewed determination, I raced toward it, bursting through the glass panes and tumbling onto the grass below. Scrambling to my feet, I didn't stop running until I reached the safety of my car. But once inside, shaken and sweating, I knew I couldn't leave without answers. Ignoring the insistent voice in my head telling me to run, I returned to the school, armed with a flashlight, a camera, and a steel-tipped crowbar for protection. This time, I approached from the side, skirting around the overgrown playing fields and dodging crumbling brickwork. The rear of the school loomed before me, its windows like vacant eyes staring sightlessly ahead. I circled, searching for another entry point, my heart pounding in my chest. That was when I noticed a basement window near the far corner, its glass panes sealed with rusty nails. I knelt beside it, listening intently. Voices, whispers drifted from within, too faint to make out words, but laced with an undeniable urgency. I traced lines of peeling paint, cold and hard beneath my fingertips. Whoever or whatever was down there, it was trapped, and I couldn't help but feel a surge of morbid curiosity. Taking a deep breath, I jammed my crowbar under the window latch and heaved. The old wood splintered under my assault and the window swung inward, revealing a pitch-black hole. Holding my flashlight aloft, I descended the rickety steps. The musty air grew colder, damp and heavy with mildew. At T-bottom, I flipped on my camera, its red recording light a beacon in the darkness. The stairwell opened into a cavernous space, the foundation of the school's library. Crumbling books lay strewn about, their pages moist and mildewed. Overhead, water dripped steadily from unseen cracks, echoing in the vast silence. I ventured deeper, hearing my own breathing amplified in the gloom. The whispers seemed to grow louder here, swirling around me like unseen presences. The floors sloped sharply downward, descending into impenetrable blackness. And then I saw it, a pair of eyes gleaming malevolently in the shadows. Startled, I stumbled back, my foot catching on a loose floorboard. As I fell, the flashlight flew from my grasp, clattering across the floor and disappearing into the gloom. I scrambled to my feet, my heart pounding against my ribs. In the sudden darkness, the whispers coalesced into murmurs, then voices, their tone urgent, their words indecipherable. Panicked, I lunged for my camera, groping blindly in the darkness. But just as I found it and switched on the light, I heard a sound that froze my blood. Footsteps. Heavy, measured footsteps, descending the stairs from above. He spun around, backing away from the sound. Whatever was coming down those stairs was huge, the steps groaning under its weight. Terror lent speed to my movements as I raced for the stairs, scrambling upward, desperate to escape. I burst out of the basement window and onto the overgrown lawn, gasping for breath. Behind me, the sounds of heavy footsteps and frantic scratching echoed in pursuit. As I stumbled away, adrenaline jolted through my veins. Spurring me on, I dared not look back, yet I could hear the creature scrabbling behind me, gaining on me with every labored step. I didn't stop running until I reached the sanctuary of my car, collapsing against it, trembling, my entire body slicked with sweat and fear. I slammed the door, fumbled with my keys, and threw myself inside. The engine roared to life and I sped away, glancing nervously over my shoulder. But through the rear window, I saw only the looming darkness of the school and the moon, hanging low in the sky like a watchful eye. Now the thing is, kids don't just disappear. They go missing, yes, but they leave something behind. Atrase, arresidue, agost. You see, the real horror isn't the creature that haunts the halls. It's what its presence implies. The annals of Walton High tell a grim tale. Between 1948 and 1964, 5 students vanished without a trace. Local police labeled each disappearance an independent incident, a runaway, a tragic accident, a petty crime gone awry. But townsfolk knew better. Whispers spoke of a sinister secret buried beneath the school's hallowed halls. And so it was that I found myself standing once more before the imposing facade of Walton High, drawn back by a need for answers. Armed with old yellowed documents and the flickering beam of my flashlight, I plunged into the darkness within. The basement, dank and heavy with the scent of mildew, was my first stop. In the scant moonlight filtering through grimy windows, I saw rows upon rows of books, their spines cracked and pages brittle. But amidst the decaying volumes, something glinted faintly. I brushed aside cobwebs and dirt to reveal a tarnished metal box tucked beneath a loose floorboard. With shaking hands, I lifted the lid. Inside, journals bound in worn leather lay stacked, their pages filled with spidery handwriting. Each entry chronicled the haunting reality of Walton High. I learned of a ritual, a dark pact made with an entity whose hunger for souls knew no bounds. 5 names were inscribed in the final entry, dated April 1964. They were the last to succumb, their spirits forever trapped within the school's decaying walls. And then I saw my name scrawled in a shaky hand beneath the list. Someone had written, "Don't let it take you. Fight it with everything." With that, I knew I was in grave danger, and suddenly, footsteps echoed in the silence. They were coming from me. I fled, racing through labyrinthine corridors, the whispers of the damned close behind. But as I ran, something stirred within the creature. Long dormant, sensing my awareness, it began to stir. Suddenly, it was upon me, big and muscled and smelling of decay. It lunged. I screamed, scrambling backward until my foot struck a loose floorboard. The creature loomed closer, its breath hot and fetid on my neck. Then, through blurry eyes, I saw the box of nails lying nearby. Gathering the last of my strength, I hurled it at my pursuer. Startled, it recoiled as nails bit into its flesh, and in that instant, I fled. The air grew colder as I sprinted toward the basement door. My breath ragged, I fumbled with the latch, the rusty metal biting into my palms. The creature was gaining on me. I could hear its enraged bellows echoing through the halls. Finally, the door gave way. I tumbled down the stairs and into the darkness below. Gasping for breath, I scrambled away, but the darkness writhed, taking shape in the flickering glow of my flashlight. It was the creature, somehow transformed, now a shapeless mass of writhing tentacles and gnashing teeth. Panic surged through me. I had nowhere left to run. Then, through the din, I heard a voice, faint yet clear. It beckoned me upward, promising salvation. I hesitated, torn between the voice and the growing darkness behind me. But as the creature surged forward, tendrils reaching for me, I followed the sound. Scrambling up the basement stairs, I burst out of the library and into a long, deserted hallway. At the end, a sliver of moonlight beckoned through a broken window. Hope surged through me. I was almost free, but then the ground trembled. The creature had followed me. Tendrils burst through the floor, anchoring it securely in the hallway. It writhed closer, its gaping maw dripping ichor. Then it spoke its voice, a cacophony of whispers. Join us, become one with the eternal darkness. But even as it reached for me, I resisted. With a cry, I clambered through the window and onto the fire escape. The creature screeched in frustration as I ascended, its claws scrabbling uselessly on the ladder rungs. Finally, I hauled myself onto the roof, collapsing on the shingles, gasping for breath. Below me, the creature paced restlessly on the fire escape, its silhouette a nightmare against the moonlit sky. Then it did something unexpected. It stopped, raised its head and howled. It was a mournful sound, filled with ages of sorrow and regret. And as I listened, something shifted within me. The creature wasn't evil, not truly. It was trapped, tormented by an insatiable hunger it could never sat. Pity mingled with my terror. This was no monster, just a lost and lonely thing. And then it did something that made my blood run cold. It began to speak, its voice echoing through the night. "Why do you stay?" it asked. "Come back. Join me in the eternal embrace of oblivion. We are one. You and I come home." Its words slithered into my mind, wrapping around my thoughts like a shroud. I fought against it, clinging desperately to the sliver of moonlight shining through the clouds. But the creature was persistent. "You belong here with us," it whispered. "We are all that remains, the echoes of those left behind. The school keeps us safe, hidden from a world that doesn't understand. Don't fight it. Embrace it. Be with us." I struggled to maintain my footing, the rooftop pitching beneath me. The creature was strong, its hold on my mind relentless. But as its voice echoed around me, I remembered the box of nails. Yes, it had driven them into the creature, but that hadn't stopped it. Nails wouldn't save me now, and so I considered the creature's offer, wondering what it would mean to join it, to become one with the darkness. Could I find peace in oblivion? Would I be reunited with my loved ones lost to time? Or would I simply cease to exist? The decision weighed heavily upon me, a burden that threatened to crush my spirit. Yet even as I pondered my fate, the creature sensed my wavering resolve. "It's all right," it murmured. "Let go. Surrender to the darkness. It won't hurt." And in that moment of weakness, I felt its tendrils reach for me, seeking to drag me back to the shadowy depths of the school. But then a sudden noise cut through the tension. Huh? Car.